There are a number of process steps a style will go through from its initial conception to the point it is approved for production. These steps can vary from company to company, but the core process remains the same. These steps are often done in tandem, not necessarily one after the other, but the following example walks through them in a linear manner so it's easier to explain. As a designer, you will not actively be involved in every step, but it is important for you to understand the full end-to-end process, as you will be required to produce supporting documentation and provide input at various stages. You will also need to understand why some styles you design go through to production and others do not. The first part of the process is the concept stage. This is where the season kicks off and is a busy time for designers. This stage usually involves inspiration trips. This could be to fabric shows such as Premier Vision in Paris, or it could be competitive shopping trips to cities such as New York. Trend direction websites will probably be utilised, such as WGSN or Trendstop, to help designers identify key trends and silhouettes for the upcoming season. Designers will start putting together mood boards for the season, highlighting the themes for the upcoming collections they will design. They will start thinking about the types of fabrics that will feature in the collection and will develop colour palettes. Often happening in conjunction with the concept stage is the plan stage. Designers are not involved in these tasks, though they do receive communication of the output. Merchandisers and buyers will start by analysing last year's performance and will identify best and worst sellers. This may be identifying colourways that sold really well, silhouettes that didn't, or fabrics that were popular. They will also research into key silhouettes and trends for this season. Alongside that, they will develop a financial plan. This often takes directive from senior management, who will give guidelines on the turnover they are looking to reach, margins they need to achieve, and which lines or collections should contribute what percentage to the overall figures. The merchandisers and buyers will use the outcome of this research and analysis to formulate a range plan. This is a detailed plan of the styles that should be designed to fulfill a range. This will include details like the breakdown of tops versus bottoms, how many basic versus directional styles, the types of silhouette that should feature, and a breakdown of how many colourways each item in the range should have. Once this plan has been developed, it is then used as a brief for the designers. At the same time, the fabric directions for the season have been passed over to product development for initial sourcing. This has to happen fairly early in the design process, even before any styles have been designed, as the lead time on fabrics is often quite lengthy. The next step in the process is the design stage. Designers will have received the design brief in the form of the range plan and will combine this with mood boards and themes they have developed to start designing actual styles and suggesting colourways. At the same time, seasonal fabrics and trims are being designed. This may be all over prints or embellishments like embroideries and screen prints. Sometimes this is done by the fashion designers, sometimes a company will have a dedicated graphic design team producing these. Fabric samples are starting to come back from suppliers from the initial sourcing initiative, and lab dip requests are now being sent out. This involves asking a supplier for a sample of a particular fabric or trim dyed up in a specific colour from the season's colour palette. Once the initial designs have been done, the first range plan review meeting takes place. Designers, buyers and merchandisers will all likely participate in this. Some styles will be dropped at this stage, some colourways will be dropped, some may be added. The outcome of this meeting is a range plan of the styles that will move on to the sampling stage. Designers are then required to create design cards, or sometimes also referred to as the design tech pack. This document features a front and back view of the style, annotated to highlight any key features and measurements. The core body fabrics will often be defined, and any trims that the design is dependent upon, i.e. buttons. The design cards are then handed over to product development for the next stage. The next step in the process is the development stage. The product developers have received the design cards from the designers and now start turning these into full tech packs. The level of detail contained in the tech pack will be dependent on the sourcing and costing model being used. Some companies will ask the supplier for a finished product only. They will often specify the main fabric's quality and composition, but will leave to the supplier to source. Any design-dependent trims, such as branded buttons, may come from a specific supplier, which will be noted on the tech pack, or they may be left to the supplier to source. All non-design specific trims will be left to the supplier, for example, interlinings and threads. The supplier is then asked to quote for the finished product, providing either an FOB or landed cost. FOB stands for freight on board, and this is the cost of the product delivered to the port of shipping. The company is then responsible for the shipping. Landed is the cost of the product shipped and delivered to the company's warehouse. Other companies may wish to use a CMT model, which stands for cut, make and trim. They will source the fabrics and trims themselves and will ship them to the product supplier for manufacturing the style. Tech packs for this type of sourcing and costing will contain a more complex bill of materials that goes into detail about the fabrics and trims being used and where they come from. Regardless of the sourcing and costing model being used, tech packs will always state which sizes the product should be made in and all the measurements of the style across the sizes. This is known as a size chart. The size chart will contain a sample size, which is the size that will be sampled in the next stage. Alongside the tech pack development, fabric and trim sourcing continues to be done. It is common at this stage that designers will be required to make alterations to their designs and will need to update their design cards. This may be due to the fact that certain trims being used have come back as too expensive and will cause the style to miss its target margin, or it may be that a fabric cannot be delivered in time to hit season deadlines. After the development stage comes the sampling stage. Chosen suppliers, based on the quotations they came back with amongst other criteria, will be asked to deliver a prototype sample. This first sample is often not in the final fabric, just one of a similar quality, and not in a specific colourway. It is often referred to as a fit sample, as it is used to assess the overall style, silhouette and dimensions. The designer works together with a product developer to assess the sample, and together they decide on any changes that need to be made. Design cards and tech packs may be revised as a result. Some styles will need a second sample. This may be due to issues with fit or changes to the style after the proto-evaluation. At this stage, colourway sheets will be put together showing the styles in all the available colourways. Costings for the styles will start to be finalised. The final stage is the adoption. Before a style goes into production, it will go through a final range review. Even at this late stage, some styles may be dropped, colourways may be added or dropped, or other changes may be made. For example, a branded toggle used on a number of styles may be replaced with a different one. Once the range is finalised, salesman samples will be ordered. A salesman sample will be in the correct fabric with all the correct trims. One of each colourway of each style is usually ordered, and the number of sets will vary. A full colourway set of each style may be ordered for every showroom, for example. In conjunction, a line book may be produced. This is a professionally produced document containing all the styles for the season and lists all the colourway or other product options, for example fabrication choices. It may contain drawings from the designer, or it may be photographs of actual samples. This is intended as a wholesale sales tool. The styles will now go into production. The process steps we've just been through are often supported by a number of different business systems. Different companies will have different levels of process and system maturity. At a most basic level, Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop will be utilised in the design phase, then most other phases will be supported by a variety of Microsoft Excel documents. Those with a medium level of process and system maturity may be utilising some form of PDM system alongside the Adobe products in Excel. PDM stands for Product Data Management, and it is a system used for generating tech packs. Companies using these sort of systems will still likely rely on Excel for financial and merchandise plans and will manually build reports, also in Excel. Finally, companies with a more advanced level of process and system maturity will likely be using a PLM system. PLM stands for Product Lifecycle Management, and it manages all the product data in the pre-production process. Like PDM, it is used for generating tech packs, but it also manages all the supporting data such as suppliers, fabrics, trims, creates range plans, manages critical paths and automatically generates reports. Quite often a PLM system will also be integrated directly with Adobe Illustrator. These sort of companies will likely also be using other systems dedicated to supporting various parts of the process in detail, for example merchandise and assortment planning systems. Those with the greatest level of process and system maturity will have integrated these systems together, so there is a constant flow of data through all parts of the process. Processes and systems will vary from company to company, as will the roles and responsibilities of the designer. Whatever the setup, one thing is for sure. In terms of systems, designers spend most of their time working in Adobe Illustrator, so by taking this course you are giving yourself the best possible foundation to start working in the design room.